Hey, Vin. Hey, everyone.
Hey, Caddy.
Hey, Vinny. That's going to be our thing. How are you tonight?
I'm here. I'm good. Better than last time. It was crazy because last time I didn't even notice really till I was editing that I kept clearing my throat. And then the next day when we got done editing 2 weeks ago is when I ended up finding out I had COVID. So it's like, I was like, that's why I was dragging that day. I was like, I don't feel good. I got to get through this. And then it was like, oh, okay.
And it never goes away, COVID.
Luckily, I didn't give it to you.
Oh, by the way, you'll be thrilled to know that one of my everyone, I have a horror book club that I meet in person.
Hey, a horrible
horror. We read horror.
I was going to say, that is so rude. I thought it's horrible club. I mean,
yeah, they're horrible, and they do watch. So hello, Kelsey, Grace, Mark, Tim.
Horror.
Horror. And anyway, there's two funny things. So first of all, I had met up with them, and they were like, "Oh, I hadn't seen them for a while," and they're like, "Oh, I felt like I just saw you," and then they're like, "Oh, wait, we see you on the podcast, so we feel like we see you." But and there was another thing, but I've promptly forgotten it with my GenHex brain. There was a thought for this. What were you talking about before that?
COVID.
Oh, I got it. I'm back. And one of them asked me, was that story about how you met Vin true? That's so weird.
Of course. Wanda, hi Wanda, she was telling us she looked up the statistics, and apparently it's pretty crazy the odds of us just randomly running into each other in another country and hooking up, and then not hooking up, but you know what I mean, hanging out in the same gondola, and then finding out that we're related.
It went really weird, but given what we're going to be talking about, that's not even that weird. So anyway,
yeah, pretty normal compared
to what, yeah. But I thought that was pretty funny. But and that's pretty cool, Wanda. Look that up. Thank you, Wanda. And actually, someone else to thank. I want to thank Shelly. I have my cup of Irish breakfast tea. Shelly sent me Irish breakfast. It's called Burley's, and it's actually from Ireland, and it is so good. So thank you, Shelly. Thank you. I love it. Subscribe, like, share, hit the notification button, and people start following us. We want to get to 500 here, so we
want to get to 200.
We really want to get to 200, but I'm being ambitious.
We want to get to 1 million people. Let's go.
I mean, that's the end goal. But let's jump right into our case. So last week was listener tales, but before that we transition into stranger danger, and of course talked about Adam Walsh. And now we are going to move on to another big case of that time period. It was only a year later, 1982.
And it does connect later to the Adam Walsh family as well, ironically.
Yeah. So we need to give our GenHex, or are they the Hexers?
Yeah, let's see, what are they? The Jexers? What do you guys want to be called?
Yeah, you have to give us votes on what you want to be called.
The GenHexers? What are you guys?
Anyway, I wonder if you and our GenHex peeps, and hopefully other peeps too, we're not limiting. What do you know about Johnny Gosch?
Well, gosh, I didn't even know about Johnny until you told me, and I watched some documentaries, and I was like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah, well, this one is a twisty-turny, and I don't know if we should just be upfront. This one doesn't have answers. It really doesn't end with any definitive answers, but it does definitely make a big change in how we grew up. It affected a lot of things that later on down the road were actually really good things.
Yeah, I mean, it did have some good outcome, but it really does just leave everybody just hanging with with questions like,
Yeah, what happened? What happened?
Who? How?
Yeah, so we're gonna introduce you to Johnny Gosch. He was, I believe, 11 years old.
Is he 11 or 12, something like that? Right around there.
He was going out to do his morning paper route, and we all remember lots of people who had paper routes. I never had one, but
I wasn't allowed to have one. But my brother, I don't know if you remember the grit. You remember that little newspaper thing, grit papers? Yeah. My brother did the grit paper.
Okay. We have Johnny Gosch. He's going out to do his paper route. It's a Sunday morning,
early, dark,
and normally his father went with him. Because the papers were heavier and it was more work, but they would walk around on mornings and deliver the papers. So he had asked the night before, apparently, to do it on his own, and his mother, Noreen, said, absolutely not. Your dad's going to go with you. But for whatever reason, which in one place that I researched, they do bring that up as too coincidental that it's the one time he goes on his own and this happens. But so there's some speculation, why did he want to go by himself? But that's never proven, much like everything else. But anyway, he took his dog. He had a dachshund. He had a wiener dog named Gretchen.
Wiener. I love wiener dogs.
He took his wiener dog, and he took his red cart. They mentioned that he had a red cart,
red wagon.
Yep, and he headed out without waking up his dad, and off he went. So he then goes his usual route, which it sounds like. Actually, there were other kids sort of kind of around, because other paper boys were paper girls. We don't know. But it did seem to be all boys that spoke.
At that one. Yeah, they would go to a certain location, which if he went back roads, it wasn't, or the back way through different people's yards, it wasn't that far to walk. But they would pick up their load of papers, and then they would go their separate routes.
Right. And I, of course, have, I'm so terrible at names. But so anyway, at one point, around 6:15 a.m., when they realized, of course, this is the interviews they do once they know he's missing. But there is somebody who comes forward. He was a 16-year-old boy who said that he did see Johnny Gosch talking to someone in a blue Ford Fairmont. And they did notice that as he walked, he seemed a little nervous about whatever this person was saying. He kept going, but the man in the car flashed his dome light 3 times. Which appears to be a signal to someone. And then a tall man came out on foot and started to follow Johnny. And so that is one sighting once they realize, because eventually the father wakes up, realizes that Johnny's gone. He goes out figuring he'll help find him, but also figure he'll help him. And of course he finds the red wagon, and he finds Gretchen, and there's no Johnny. So
weren't people also calling the newspaper place, wanting to know where their papers were?
They were actually calling.
Oh, they were calling his family. That's right. Yeah. They were calling his family.
Apparently, they were calling so much that eventually the father went out and delivered the papers. Mm-hmm. Because even though his son is now missing, and they have no idea, because they couldn't even use their phone to call around to friends to try to figure out if anybody had seen him, because people were calling for their papers. Because, back then the paper was...
The Sunday paper was everything.
It was everything. So... another group, I believe it was 2 boys, and they were younger, they were closer to his age. They said that they said hello to him, they saw him. They don't recall a tall man following him, but they did see him going now in the direction of his house. So they think, the speculation is he got spooked by whatever the blue car guy did, and he started to go back to his house, but he did not make it. So, so this is what we know, and this is all the parents know, is he is nowhere. Now we get into police and the police are infuriating, and I don't care about the times, whatever. This is just a ridiculous thing that happened.
This was awful. I mean, they botched it so bad.
Yes. So, of course, Noreen and Johnny's dad was John Sr. They knew that their son, they knew this was a problem. Something is wrong. So they call the police, and the police tell them, of course,
he ran away.
But they also refused to do anything for 72 hours. 72 hours. I mean, that is insanity. And then on top of that, how hard would they have an eyewitness saying it was a blue Ford Fairlane or Fairmont. You're telling me you can't even be bothered to at least look for the car or try to, nothing. They do nothing. They just say he's a runaway.
All they ever would say back then was, oh, he probably ran away. He'll probably be back later. They just did not care, which is why so much had to change. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Yep. And
the parents had to do everything, and they did.
They did. Noreen is getting, she gets kind of mixed reviews as far as, was she just losing her mind, or was she driven, or did she have, and we'll get further into the case and things that she discovered or people that contacted her. And to be fair, there wasn't a lot of people who were just kind of messing with them, giving them false information. But anyway, I don't know why, but yes, she did not, obviously, they did not wait for the police to act. So they got friends and family, and they all hit the streets. I do believe, and this was only mentioned in one of the documentaries that I watched, that they did find his coat.
Did they? I didn't see that.
So, and I don't know, because it was only mentioned in the one, so I don't know if that, but again, if this is all they found, this is not a runaway. This is terrifying.
Well, plus, what kid his age is going to go and pick up the newspapers first and then leave the wagon with the papers?
And his dog.
Yeah, and his dog. The dog did come home by itself. But
if you were going to be a runaway, you would have taken
your... Well, you would have packed some stuff.
You would have packed some stuff, and probably he wouldn't have taken the dog unless he intended to keep the dog with him the whole time. But
exactly.
So anyway, the investigation continues to botch. They're not taking it serious, and the chief of police or the sheriff, I can't remember Orville Cooney, was the worst, and I'm going to call him out by name because he was the worst. There was some kind of ego going on there that...
Oh, he was bad. Now, didn't he later get, fired? There was a big investigation, not because of this. There was an investigation into the whole department because there was, a whole bunch of people that worked there that complained. So they were I think it was 18 out of 23, so they had to take it serious, and he ended up losing his job because he was the worst. He was so bad at everything. He was a terrible human being.
Yeah, I mean, and later on, the things that he said about Noreen Gosch, that, and I'm sure, I'm sure Noreen was a squeaky wheel of the highest order, as she should be. Her child is missing, and they're doing nothing.
She was everywhere. She was not going to stop. That became her whole identity, was find my son. Mm-hmm. I mean, she was, doing interviews. She was trying to get people aware because the police weren't doing anything. They would not even call it an abduction forever. They just said he was... Would they just say he was missing or something like that? Well, and they wouldn't call it a kidnapping.
It was 3 weeks into the case, and Cooney called her and said that they were putting it in the cold case. 3 weeks. That's what on earth? But things don't stay just we don't know what happened to him, because plenty of weird things start happening. And so we've left off with, we think there's the man in the car, and we think there's a tall man. So we think there's two who could be involved. And this was actually in Des Moines. So Noreen goes on, kind of like the Walshes, and starts going to all the news stations. I mean, she ends up on Donahue. She ends up on like the Today Show, or the equivalent. And like they are putting a hard push. I mean, she is not backing down. This is where, and I don't know if you remember this from what you watched, but there was somebody else who came forward early. I feel like it was early on, because it was supposed to be a private investigator, and I couldn't find his name, but he came forward and said that he wanted to help them and that he knew some like inside information. And he actually said that another paperboy would be taken, and it was like the next year in the same town.
But was it even a year? I don't think it was a year. I think it was like 8 months or something when the next boy was taken.
So that was always something that Noreen and John couldn't figure out, was if this guy really had some kind of intel, because of course, as we get into it, Noreen starts to believe that Johnny's alive, and he has been taken for human trafficking.
Well, plus there was a bunch of paper boys that were getting abducted or attempted. I mean, it was like an epidemic in that region, where they were just like the white van. Kids were being grabbed. Kids were screaming and running away because of somebody grabbing them. And one was a girl that was almost kidnapped. I mean, it was just like, what is happening to the paper boys and girl? It was like, oh, and of course the police were trying to downplay it because they didn't want kids to stop delivering the paper.
Right. Well, I mean, like you said, the paper was everything. Everybody got the paper back then. So that, of course, got Noreen. Like, how did this guy know this? And that didn't really seem to go much of anywhere. But as we get further in, so I mean, time's passing, and actually the paperboy that I believe was taken next was Eugene Martin.
Now, when he got taken, I know they contacted his family, and they, of course, were working with different groups trying to offer rewards for any information. I believe after Eugene was kidnapped, isn't that when that milk company started putting the kids' faces on the cartons? Because that was in the documentary, because they had both of those boys, and that's how that got started. I didn't realize that. But after that, they started doing that with missing children.
Interestingly, though, I was listening to a podcast about this, and they said that actually no one was ever found from the milk cartons.
Really?
Never found a missing person from the milk cartons. It was a good thought, but I think that it ended up being America's Most Wanted. That ended up being the real success.
Well, the printing on the carton was never very good. It was very thick, blurry ink. So all those mornings of sitting there staring at the milk carton, reading the thing, we never found it.
How many of you sat at the kitchen table and read your cereal box? I always read the cereal box, even though I'd read it the morning before. There's a few things. Did you get into the few bizarre sightings? So there was a bunch, like I said, there were a bunch of people that they put out a big reward.
There was something, I know, and see what was crazy is because the police weren't doing anything. I mean, nowadays you automatically think there's a missing kid. If you see something, you call 911. No, that's not what you did back then. They were giving out their home phone number. They were policing their own phone. They were getting calls from all over the country from people saying, hey, we just saw Johnny at the skating ring, we saw him here, and it would have to be looked into. And of course they had a detective or whatever, but the police weren't doing anything. Usually nowadays there's like call centers, they will make a task force to work on this particular missing child, but they had nothing. They had no support, no help, and they gave out their home phone number, which is why they got the crazies too.
Right, and it's just wild. But they did get two quite credible reports. One was a woman who said she was at a shopping center and saw a boy running across the parking lot screaming, "Help me," and he yelled, "I'm Johnny Gosch." And then, according to her, she saw somebody run up behind him, grab him around the mouth and torso, and throw him into a car. So this, of course, Noreen's thinking, okay, he's out there somewhere. And she always felt that he was out there somewhere. So that was an interesting one. And then there was another one, again, at another shopping place where it might have been a grocery store, where a woman got change. And
oh, that's right.
Yeah, and the dollar bill, she got a dollar bill, and written on it was "I'm alive. This is Johnny Gosch."
And it had his signature.
Yeah, so I think it actually said "I'm alive" and just was signed.
Yeah, and I know that they looked into it, and they had like 5 or 6 handwriting analysis people say that it was his handwriting, but then a whole bunch more started showing up. Mm-hmm. So it was like, well, and that happened.
It's funny, I was listening to a podcast that brought that up, and they said, well, what would be the likelihood that dollar bill would even get into the hands of somebody who knew the case? Well, first of all, the case was huge, but second of all, you're acting like that's not in circulation. Could have gone through a lot of people who didn't pay any attention to it before this woman got it and happened to contact the parents. But there was some speculation that maybe it was just trying to get a payout because they did have a big reward.
The one thing that bugged me when I was watching the documentaries about it, it was so weird. It was like, I don't know how you'd explain it. It's not something that would be said nowadays because everybody would be like, that is an awful thing to say. But it was like immediately within, like, as soon as they realized my son's been kidnapped and they are not going to get help from the police, and they start going on the news and stuff, and the parents are being interviewed, the dad says, we just want our son back. If he's alive, we want him back. If he's dead, we want his body back too, so we can give him a proper burial. And I'm like, he's only been missing for a few days, and you're over there saying, we want his body back. We want his dead body. And it was so crude and just so cold to just say, we want his dead body back. I'm like, this is your little boy that is missing, and you're already talking about burying him? That is so creepy, man. And he just acted like it was just so nonchalant about it. Well, at least give us the body back so we can give the boy a decent burial. I'm like,
well, and I think too that how soon do they say if you don't find them, though? I mean, they didn't know that. So for him to say that was not a frame of reference. But isn't it like 48 hours, and the chances are
pretty well, I know, every 12 hours that goes by, I don't know the statistics, but there's less and less chance if you don't have a lead within the first 24 hours.
Right. And the thing that really frustrated me is they had a straight up lead to run right away, which was that car. I mean, they could have, I realized you didn't have surveillance.
They could have be on the lookout, but they didn't even notify any of their officers in the region saying, hey, if you see this vehicle.
Well, and Noreen wanted the FBI, and that was another thing that Cooney, he just refused to call because I guess he thought he was going to look like he didn't know how to handle the case, or he wasn't handling the case, so he didn't know how, but
he wouldn't do anything.
But so now we have like stranger danger becoming like a real thing here. This is probably also the first case, and I think this is why Noreen was so kind of considered to be like an alarmist, like completely obsessed and alarmist. This is the first time really that they ever did talk, as far as I know, about human trafficking. I mean, this really was a completely unknown concept, I think, to a lot of parents, that people could be abducted and kept alive. And
yeah, it was such a conspiracy theory back then, before conspiracy theories were a thing. Now it's every other minute, but back then it was like, what are you talking about, lady? This is crazy. And now it's like, yeah, that's a thing. A big thing.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, when she started throwing out there that I think, and one of the places that she got more information about this was, and I'm going to have to look up his name, you know me. His name was Paul Bonacci? I think
that was how they pronounced it.
Paul Bonacci, who was already in prison for some kind of assaulting minors, I believe.
I think so, yeah. He wasn't serving a long period of time, but I don't know.
No, and actually, I don't think there was actually any benefit. He wasn't trying to get any sort of reduced sentence or anything. Yeah. He just came forward and he said that he had been there, that he had helped abduct Johnny, that he gave quite a lot of information about Johnny that wasn't in, like, about a birthmark.
Yeah, like a birthmark that wasn't seen, because he had one on his chest that was obviously talked about, but I think there was like something where he had bit through his tongue during an accident or something, and he knew about that, and he knew about another really obscure scar.
A burn scar on his leg, and he knew that Johnny would stutter when he was upset. And as far as Noreen said, none of those details really had been publicized. Maybe, like you said, the chest birthmark, but even that, I feel like that comes into play later again. But yeah, I mean, he gave a lot of information about that he had been in the trafficking ring, that he had been used to sort of help recruit.
He was a younger looking man too. I mean, he was a young guy. He wasn't one of these old people. He was a victim as well. And then a lot of times victims will victimize.
Right.
What his situation was.
Right. And so Noreen felt this was pretty credible that this had happened. And I'm not really sure of the time frame, but there were the pictures.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Somebody had left. Well, I know her and her husband had got divorced after some time because it was just too much. I mean, obviously that became her entire existence, and you can imagine how that could obviously cause a couple to either bond even closer or just break apart. So They went their separate ways, and somebody had left the package with the photos on her doorstep.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I looked at the photos, and you could certainly, everybody who's watching, you can find them easily. They are disturbing in that you are seeing a bound child. But I mean, I think it looks like him. It's hard to say. The school pictures, he kind of has that like styled over hair and stuff. And of course,
you see them. The documentary I was watching kind of had them blurred, but they were saying that the Florida police claimed that they already knew about most of them, but because they had already investigated, but they didn't have copies of those. But there was one child they couldn't account for, and that's the one she claimed was her son.
Yeah, and I mean, you can look at, and I recommend to the viewer, to our pals here, like if you feel comfortable looking, to kind of speculate on what you think. But I do think it looks like him, especially if he had lost weight. He was, disheveled. He was traumatized. So yeah, I mean, when you're comparing the school picture where he's all tidy and ready for his school picture compared to these pictures, but I feel like the eyes were pretty similar. But again, Noreen's feeling pretty confident that he's out there. And really, Paul wasn't interesting. I don't quite know why they didn't do more with that either, because he had a lot of information. It certainly couldn't hurt.
Well, he took them to that house too, where he said that these people were keeping kids, and he was talking about a room that had marks, and he took them to the house, and this is what was so weird. They said that the owner of the house moved out shortly before he took them there, and they never heard from the man again. They never found him. I'm like, why can you not find this guy? What is wrong with these? He didn't disappear, but he also showed them immediately. He went to a place that you can crawl underneath the house to show them a hidden room, and there it was, and there was the marks in that one room like he told them. I mean, everything was right there like he said. Mm-hmm. So they didn't investigate very good if they can't find the owner of a house.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well,
I could find him now.
I realize it was the 80s, and I don't know how popular Ford Fairmounts were, but usually isn't it like you do the registration check of how many blue Ford? I mean, at least you could rule out the people in town if they
exactly.
But they didn't even bother with that.
They didn't want to do the work. They wanted to just dismiss it and say, he ran away. Happens all the time.
But I will give you some of the reasons that he was disregarded, because he did have a lot, but they did think he had mental health issues. So, but
yeah, they were saying he had, like, back in the day, they called it multiple personality disorder or something.
yeah, but again, you're talking about somebody who's claiming they were part of a sex ring, so he's not going to be okay. I mean, like, this is, they said his story's changed over time. Well, again, okay, that might be a red flag, or it might be you're dealing with trauma and things are coming back to you or whatever.
Well, plus he was saying that there was some things he didn't remember unless he was speaking as one of his other personalities. And back then, they really didn't take much stock into that situation. They didn't really take it like it was legitimate. And they might have thought, but I mean, I watched some of the stuff with him talking. I mean, obviously you can't tell by looking, but he was such a serious and such a serious, traumatic individual. I don't know how to describe him. His whole energy was just like, you could just tell this person had been terribly traumatized.
Right. So yeah, I don't feel like he was necessarily, I mean, he was paid attention to by some, but I don't feel like it was really, they just never narrowed down if they could really trust him. I think Noreen feels that he was telling the truth. But
now, wasn't he connected with this other man? This guy was in politics. He sang like a national anthem at some political convention or something, and then he was, I forget his job. He ended up going to prison for a long time for embezzling, but he was saying that this guy was part of the kidnapping ring, basically. Well, actually, what he was saying was that this guy would have parties with important figures that were usually rich, political, or whatever. And then he said it didn't happen at the parties, but he would have these victims there, and these people could pretty much buy whichever one they wanted for a certain time period and take them with them or whatever. So,
yeah. Well, and I think was that the Franklin scandal?
I think so.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, Noreen's getting more information that this is going on. She then, we jump ahead because she never gave up. She was constantly, and there was I heard some debate about like the money. Things would happen like every 2 to 3 years, and some people even speculated that she would come up with these things to keep it fresh in the eyes of the public, like, oh, now there's this dollar bill, whatever. I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to say. But even if she did, if she never found her son, okay, well, I don't know that I wouldn't do stuff to keep it back, get it back in the news. But we do jump ahead quite a bit, and of course I can't find my year. I want to say...
Wasn't that 93?
97. The alleged visit. So she had heard out, there was some speculation that, why do I feel like it was again Paul? Because I feel like Paul was saying that there was somebody who was no, he probably wouldn't have known since he...
Wasn't there something, she went to court, and I think it did have something to do with Paul, because she agreed to, like, be a witness for something or something to do in court, and I think he was involved in it, but because she was under oath and they asked her, have you seen or heard ever from your son since his disappearance? And that's when she said yes, and it was like, what?
Yeah. Right, so supposedly in 97 she had a knock at the door. She opened the door, and it was Johnny. Johnny would have been like 21.
Yeah, she believed it was him, and that was her exact words. I believed it was my son.
Yeah, and hair was long and dyed black. She felt it was dyed, and he did say he was her son. He had a man with him who she didn't really know who he was. And he did show his birthmark. So he did show her the birthmark, according to her, and they talked for about an hour and a half, and he explained to her that he had been in a human trafficking. He was escaping. Her assumption was that person who was with him was helping him get out of the country or wherever he was going. He said he couldn't tell her where he was going, and that he couldn't really tell her anything more, and he couldn't stay because he would be killed, and so would they. They were not going to.
Yeah, for his own safety, she said that he said he couldn't contact her again or anything like that.
Right, but he wanted to say goodbye and let her know he was alive. Now, a lot of people feel like this was completely invented by her, that it never happened. But again, we'll never know. And honestly, if this was as big as they're alluding to, this human trafficking, I mean, they would probably kill the family. I mean, they're not.
Well, look at the Epstein files. I mean, oh my God. I mean, back then that was unheard of. That's ridiculous. Rich people are not stealing children. Rich people aren't doing all these horrible things. Politicians would never. And then it's like, hello, Epstein. Mm-hmm. Yes, they have been for a very, very long time.
Right. Well, and then the thing is, I can see, and this is going into, and I'd love to hear what the people watching think, but I do kind of vaguely remember her being on a lot of things, and the vibe being she was a kook. Like she
said that they were calling her a loon.
Yeah,
and that if a frantic mother looking for her son and is willing to spend her entire existence until she finds her son is called a loon, then she's okay if they want to call her a loon. But right. She really was out there. And I noticed also at the time, they were showing pictures and stuff of what the family looked like. She was a yoga instructor. Mm-hmm. She looked so, I don't know, kind of frumpy looking in a way. And then all of a sudden it was like over time, the hair got bigger, the makeup got brighter. It was like she was really, not that she was trying to look a certain way, but she was definitely made up for the cameras. She changed a lot. Her appearance changed drastically.
Well, and I wonder if that was an opinion.
Do what?
I wonder if that affected opinions of the people.
That's what I wonder too.
Being in the spotlight.
Well, plus the thing with her is, I guess, I mean, you don't know how you're going to deal with such a situation unless you're in it. And I know a lot of parents, part of them dies inside if they lose their child. Obviously, some of them react like the Walshes. Mm-hmm. They get fire under them and they become a powerhouse. And you can look at her like that. That's what she was. She was a powerhouse. And she didn't look like she was falling apart because she was determined. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So she's not going to show up looking frumpy and looking like a wallflower when all of a sudden she needs your attention. Mm-hmm. She's got something important that needs to be fixed. So, I'm sure it did sway public opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this was just such a inconceivable concept that I think a lot of people just thought she was going off the rails because this can't be true. I mean, I'm sure that most people assumed that he was gone, period. And especially after Adam Walsh, that's kind of. But I didn't hear. It's interesting that you found the connection between, because the stuff that I watched, they didn't even mention the Walshes, which I mean it is only a year after Adam. So. Well,
from what I was seeing, they were showing that she had. I don't know if the Walshes contacted her or what it was, but they had gotten together. And the combination of the two actually is what got started with that. What is it called for endangered children or
exploited and missing and exploited children? Yeah, they started that. She got the Johnny Gosch, which changed the 72 hours. I mean,
that they got that new law passed for, I guess, her state. And then I think it was like, so, and that's when that boy, what was his name, Eugene?
DJ Martin, yeah.
They actually got to apply that new law to try to help him. So immediately, not only because they got rid of that other guy that was a jerk, the one that was in charge, the sheriff or whatever, immediately when this new boy shows up, they not only they've got people everywhere, they've also contacted the FBI. I mean, they were on it. But he was never found either, was he?
No, he wasn't.
It was just like it's just like the case of the missing newspaper boys. It was like an epidemic.
You could argue the fact that none of them, because a lot of them weren't found, that sort of backs her theory that there was some kind of trafficking ring. I mean,
and they had a similar look to them. They were like, between 11 and 13, they had that very middle class, sweet, perfect smile, attractive kids. These were not like scruffy looking boys. These were much loved. They lived in a nice home. They came from a nice family. They were put together. They would have been the type of children that would have been probably what they wanted in a trafficking situation because of the way they looked.
Yeah, well, and it's just and I don't know, again, I'm going to talk to our viewers, but it's like, does anybody because I actually don't remember this case. Again, I think that I just was kept away from the news. I'm sure it was. I'm almost shocked I didn't see it because my mom loved Donahue and I did watch those. So, and maybe I did and it just didn't. I mean, I would have been 12.
I had never heard of it, but we would have been what age?
We would have been 12 when he was a kid.
We had just moved to North Carolina, so
yeah,
that was trauma for me right there. I wasn't watching the news. I was just traumatized.
Right. Well,
culture shock.
Right. Well, yeah. So I don't know. Does anybody remember this? But I mean, it's certainly. I do remember the outcome of. That's when we started having the assemblies of stranger danger. I mean, all of this sort of, and I applaud her because. I didn't look, and I should have. If Noreen is still with us, but
yeah, both the parents are deceased now.
Okay, because there would be a certain sort of told you so with the Epstein files coming out. I'm like, I mean, that would have been her sort of her moment to say, now was I as crazy as you thought? So. I don't know, and if anybody has other additional, because there was just so much information of what they were being bombarded with. I mean, we're hitting the sort of, big events and I mean, how many of you think that it really was him? I mean, it makes sense to me that he would have to get out of the country and he would have to make sure that nobody ever, I mean, she didn't tell anyone. She didn't even tell the ex-husband about that visit. I mean, that he didn't know until it came out in the court case.
Well, that one young woman from the Epstein file, didn't she move to Australia?
Mm-hmm.
The one that passed. Mm-hmm. I mean, it would make sense to get out of the country because you're terrified because the group is so not only physically large in number but powerful, extremely powerful. Mm-hmm. And one person cannot compete with that kind of money and that kind of power. So it would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who's to say he didn't,
Mm-hmm. I mean, it definitely, and I did hear one sort of amusing thing. There's one picture, if you do look online, there's 3 boys tied up. And somebody claimed that it was somebody's parent had done that, and it was like the kids were really interested in Houdini, and they were trying to they'd all been tied up to try to see who could get themselves out of it first, and it was all consensual and it was just fun. If you look at this picture, there does not look like any boy there is having fun. This is not laughing, trying to get this get yourself undone. I mean, I was like, that doesn't even seem plausible.
Yeah, the Florida police were trying to claim that, we did look into that. We'd found it somewhere. We'd found those photos on somewhere. And that it was a bunch of boys that were just playing around. And even the blurry pictures I saw, these were kids in distress. This was this was not a joke. This was not funny. This was like pain. I mean, even just the positions, it was like pain, you know?
Yeah, so anyway, but yeah, I guess that's sort of what we do know, which is not very, I know this one is not very, well, I mean, none of them really are, because we didn't really have we have what the Walshes accepted as the truth, but again, I don't feel like anything was super definitive, and there's certainly nothing on Johnny Gosch. I mean, now, actually, I did notice that Johnny Gosch was born in 1969, so he would be a year older than us, and that is pretty wild that nothing has been found in that time period.
Well, at least with the Walshes, they did find, you know, at least they found part of their son, so they got closure in the sense that they knew he was not alive. He was not being tortured. He was not in one of these, you know, child kidnapping ring things. He was deceased. Mm-hmm. But with these other boys, it's like, what happened to them? Where are they? Mm-hmm. You know,
and I mean, we are hitting on kind of a, you know, heavier case. Certainly, this brings home why stranger danger. I mean, again, everything was over the top in the 70s and 80s. So stranger danger went somewhere like insane, as things did. Like everyone was a bad guy, and you know, maybe it was more so than I ever realized, but
well, plus, I mean, it's such a weird concept to think about even the selling of the newspapers, delivering the newspapers as a child, because you had 8-year-olds out there when it was still dark, because the kids would deliver the newspapers before school started. They were almost always on their bicycles. They had a basket on their bike. They literally, just like you'd see in Leave It to Beaver, they would ride their little bikes around the neighborhood, throw the newspapers very poorly at the house, you know. Rain or shine, those newspaper boys were out there. It wasn't always boys, but usually it was boys. They were by themselves in the dark. Mm-hmm. Getting up while the rest of the family was asleep. It was teaching them responsibility, but nobody was thinking that these kids can just be taken. You know, it's like anybody can take your kid.
Well, the other thing is, you know, that Clooney really did want to drive home this was a runaway. And one of the things that both John and Noreen said was that he had done this paper route, and he was very proud of it, and he had bought a dirt bike that he was sharing with I guess that was it was both of their second marriage, so he had a stepbrother. Yeah. They were sharing the dirt bike, and he was super proud of that. He was really happy that he had done this, and he was he got along well with this stepbrother. So to me, there's like nothing, I mean, and again, I feel like if you're really running away, are you taking the dog? Are you bothering with the paper? He would have just snuck out of the house.
Plus, it was a few days before his birthday. His birthday was coming up, and he was super excited about his birthday, and he was saving up money for something else. I know he had saved for the dirt bike, but there was something else he was saving up because they were going to go to the fair. Mm. He was getting ready to go to the fair with his stepbrother or something. Mm. So he had plans. This kid wasn't going to run away. He had plans. So he was just going to go ahead. He was going to, you know, obviously be responsible, let his dad sleep, go do this himself. It wasn't that far away, pick up the papers, get back, maybe before his parents even woke up, you know, really proud of himself. Taking his dog, being careful, and then gone.
Mm-hmm. Gone. Yep. It's a terrible story. And it certainly does bring to light that, going back to how we all sort of ran feral in the streets, it does bring back that we needed more of these laws in place to keep kids safe and things to be taken seriously. Certainly that 72 hours. I'm sorry, and you know, I was listening to a podcast, and they said, what is the difference about a child who needs help, whether they ran away or they were abducted, in that these are kids on the street that need to be found? And it's a really valid, like, oh, they're a runaway, so who cares? I don't understand this. And you're talking about an 11, 12-year-old boy. It's not like, I don't know, it's just wild to me. But again, that was sort of the mindset of, like, well, they're runaways, kids do that. And it's like, it's just wild to me. And again, we're going to hit you up for if you have any memories of this or any memories of things that happened in your town where kids were missing or that the police did something that was a bit shady or anything that you have.
Didn't
do anything, right? We love those stories. And again, we know this is a heavy one. I mean, stranger danger is kind of heavy because these cases. Next week's, we're going into when the stranger is in your home. And
we're going into the craziest thing you have probably ever heard.
And a lot of people have, this was a big case. And it had a documentary that was really big. And I think, like I said, I think I watched it during COVID. So I think a lot of people were home watching going, what the heck? But I think the one thing that we'll be able to put a spin on is what we think would have happened if this same scenario had happened in our family, because I can tell you it would not have gone down like this.
No.
So tune in next week because we're going to be talking about, if you don't know, Jan Broberg. And we're going to go into all of the incredibly insane. I mean, this is an insane case.
What was the name of that documentary? Because they might want to watch it, and then if they haven't heard
you guys want to watch the documentary, if you haven't seen this, it's called Abducted in Plain Sight. And I know it was on Amazon Prime. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix, too.
It's on YouTube as well. Okay. And you can watch it for free on YouTube before they take it off.
Right. So, definitely come back because we're staying in stranger danger. And again, this is more like strange. This is more like Stranger Things. This is what it's strange. Period. And there's definitely danger. It is strange and it was dangerous, but it is not. This is coming. The stranger is in the house already, and the parents have let him in.
The parents invited him back so many times.
So definitely join us next week. We hope you enjoyed this. This one was a pretty straightforward one for us. It's pretty hard to make. This was a lot of information. It's pretty hard. There's nothing really to make light of. The police were a disaster. The poor mother was not taken seriously. Thankfully, I mean, things like the places like the news stations in Donahue and stuff. But real quick, I did hear that one of the local papers, the woman who worked there she was just a starting reporter, and they would keep sending Noreen to her, and she would call every day to want things put in the paper or want to know and she said that she was actually pretty annoyed being I have to deal with this woman. She said it wasn't until she was older and she had children that she realized, wow, okay, and the things that, and really admired her for all the changes she got made to the laws. So, I mean, I do think when you have kids, you feel differently. And I'm sure she, but we already know the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and she was trying. I don't feel like she got she definitely didn't get any answers, but I mean, unless that true visit. But anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, if she believed that was her son, then I guess she got the answers that she needed, and she was able to go on with her life and feel at least like she had closure.
Yeah. But yeah, so, if you enjoyed this story, I don't know, I always feel weird saying enjoy. If you
thought it was worth your time.
And it was interesting to you, and then...
If you learned something new.
Right. Yes. Then please, subscribe, share. Please let people know, because there's other people our age who probably would be very interested in going back to these cases and thinking about what they knew or what they saw or what they heard, or I'm sure there's people who maybe even knew him. Who knows?
And did you see her? Did you see the mom on any of the shows? You remember seeing her? I wasn't allowed to watch Donahue because some of that stuff was quite risque that he talked about. So I do know we did not watch talk shows when I was growing up.
Well, and I'm really excited for next week because we're going to be also talking about the Mormon LDS, and I think that Vin will have some interesting thoughts on religious outlooks of things. This was Anyway, all I can say is tune in next week because it's a wacky one. And if you've seen the documentary, you already know, but you're also going to get our takes on it. And
all I can say is bring on the aliens.
yeah, we haven't even, we're even going to go into aliens. So we're going to cover everything next week. So anyway, we hope you will join us and check those show notes for getting in touch with us with stories. We want any stories that you have. And
please email the stories. Don't tell us the stories in the comments because we can't use them because then everyone's already read those. So
we want to be able to email them to us and really think about giving us all the details. Even if you think the longer, we want to hear all the juicy details. So definitely fill us in, but we're very excited. And also, one more thing, if you do have questions, we will do the question and answer episode, but you got to think of those questions. And we know you people don't hesitate to ask things, so
let's have the Q&A. What do you want to know about me and Kathy?
Yes. And anyway, all right, that is it for this week. I hope you stay safe out there.
What is that? Good luck, American.